The way education is imparted, types of courses, skills, learning and development, everything went under massive transformation during the pandemic. Tech transformation and acquiring newer skill sets took center stage. Revamp or need for the new education policy is imminent. The world was changing rapidly enough, and in came the pandemic, putting change in top gear. It has affected all sectors and all verticals, leaving nothing untouched. Now, each and every company across verticals and across sectors is realizing the importance of going digital. A few of the top IT companies had a head start in dealing with the crisis thanks to their digital-first focus. To start this panel discussion, may I first call upon our first panelist. We have with us Mr. Amit N. Kolhe, Managing Trustee, Sanjivani Education Society. Amit, a visionary and an educationist, he is a dedicated philanthropist who contributed his life for economic, social development for rural people through education and industrialization. At present, he is the Managing Trustee of Sanjivani Group of Institutes, which encompasses many educational institutions under the name Sanjivani. Mr. Amit, may I invite you on the dais, please. Our next panelist is Samir Mathur, founder and CEO, Redwood Learning. Samir has close to 31 years of experience in the domain of technology, learning and development, and project management. He has worked with organizations like NIIT Limited, Wipro Limited, and Tata Unisys Limited, now part of TCS. Let's welcome Mr. Samir Mathur on the dais. And our third and final panelist is Praveen Sirohi, Senior General Manager, Telecom Sector Skill Council. Praveen has been known as a business troubleshooter, specializing in turning around organizations to a hyperdrive profitability scenario. Successfully headed in assignments in devices, sales, distribution, operations, product marketing, retail, techno-industry, renewable energy, projects, strategic planning, and execution. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Praveen Sirohi. This session will be moderated by Shubhendu Parth, editor, Voice and Data. Shubhendu, welcoming you on stage, please. Before we start the panel discussion, Before we begin this panel discussion, I would just like to award one of the universities who won in the survey. Because of some emergency, they have to leave. So before that, I am calling upon, college is Netaji Subhash University of Technology in Delhi. They have been ranked first in North Region Zone-Wise DataQuest T-School Survey 2022 of March, ranked second in the North Region DataQuest T-Schools Employability Ranking 2022 in September, ranked third in DataQuest T-School Employability Ranking in September, and ranked fourth in the DataQuest T-School Survey 2022 of March 22. Can I request the panelists to please award them for their exemplary performance, and I'll also call PG on stage to give the award to Netaji Subhash University of Delhi. We have with us Dr. MPS Bhatia, Professor, Netaji Subhash University of Delhi. A big round of applause, everyone. We have winners of one of our DataQuest surveys, the T-School surveys.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, PG. And thank you, panelists, for doing that honor. Over to you, Shubhendu.
Thanks a lot. A difficult session, as we were discussing. I hope we are able to keep you awake, and we are able to keep ourselves awake. So and we have the time on, so let's stick to the time, and I'll request you all to be a little brief on your answers. So, as we were discussing during lunch also, the lockdown has kind of accelerated the transformation in all spheres, including the education sector. And as one of the prominent speakers mentioned, perhaps 10x. Now, there has been a lot of discussion around technology aiding from becoming an enabler to become a leveler. Now, the topic that we have is about digital skilling and how digital skilling and EdTech companies are enabling in transformation of the skill sets. Now, before we start that, I've always been thinking, and I am discussing also, there is perhaps a confusion between what education is and what skilling is. Now, can we quickly define it in very short terms, each one of you, what you understand or what's your definition of digital skilling and how do you think it is different from education? Particularly, you can start that because you're focusing on high-end technology, telecom skill development.
Hello, no. Hi. Thank you, sir. And it's a post-lunch sensor, so we have to be like try to be wake up the entire meeting. So basically, education is part of that. Basically, as I'm from skilling side, so basically, what happened in skilling, you have to give something or enhance some talent which is inherent in them, or maybe that which direction the particular job is required, particularly. And education is to be grown up that so that he is at the level of getting that kind of the skill level. So as in part of that, actually, when we are in also as an SSC, so we design the entire course and curriculum and standards. So we keep that particular part as that like that. One, we have a theoretical part where we are going to be explain something to them. Then we go for that practical part also. And the practical is very important part. Hardly like if suppose there are the total 100 hours if we decide that. So we give only the theoretical part only 30 hours. Okay, like kind of that. And then practical part we give around like in 40 to 50 hours of that kind of that, so that he has the very vast knowledge about that particular skill set or whatever that. And then the OGT, the on-job training, that is part of that. So entire course and curriculum is designed such that the person who is like want to be expert in certain domain, so he should have a theoretical knowledge, so that to grown up that. Another part is that he should have a practical knowledge for those. But most important is how to use that theory and practical entire the industry. That is the on-job training. That is also we provide that particular part. So that is all the combination of the theory, practical, and then OGT that define the proper skilling of that.
Samir, your take on that. And do you think skilling is more outcome oriented than education, or outcome of education is skill development?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks a lot first for inviting us to this panel. Yes, I agree that although there is a very thin line between education and skilling, but yes, the general approach is like you said, skilling is more outcome oriented from professional point of view. But having said that, doesn't mean that education is not required. Education gives you a holistic, understanding of the word. And although there are many topics that one reads and gets educated on, not everybody will, all the topics that you study in your school will be part of your professional life. So I think skilling is more focused towards outcome, towards your professional life, towards some passion that you are driving, and education is more holistic kind of subject. That's what my feel is.
Amit?
I think Samir sir has already covered it, but I would just like to throw some light that what happened before pandemic and post pandemic, because coming from the rural part of Maharashtra, we were at the bottom of the pyramid and we have seen both sides of it. So when this pandemic came, I think in the month of March, we at our institute decided that if it is going to be there, that a situation where everything will be closed down, how are we prepared? So it depends again, institute to institute's approach, how are you going to take ahead? We luckily under our engineering college, we made sure that all our faculty, not only of our engineering, but polytechnic, pharmacy, even senior college, junior colleges and schools were brought and were given the training on the digital skilling. Because most important thing is the delivery of education through the digital platform was needed to be known to the faculty, and that we did. And with that, we also made sure that if we call ourselves an engineering institute, and in the morning also ma'am also said, and many of the panelists said, that we need to look inside what is our strength. We did one thing and we made our own LMS and put everything on that platform, and that was a good thing for us to go through the transition shift. So I think digital skilling is needed. That is the must of that.
So just to clarify one more level, when we talk about digital skilling, are we talking about only digital technologies or?
When we talk about digital skilling, it's not only technology, it is getting acquainted with both the sides. if we see this digital world has brought the entire world closer. Earlier, when we had to collaborate with a foreign university, the person we have to take his time, then according to his schedule, he used to come down and all. Now, because of this digital platform, it has happened that we can plan the session anytime as per the professor's schedule. So, a lot of things have changed at the digital platform. It's not only the skilling aspect. So, digital as a word is a very vast word where it covers entire gamut. So, we cannot keep it to a certain entity.
Yeah, I would like to be a little bit different. That basically, whatever that till now that after pandemic everything has been, so the digital part has almost take over the education part. Okay, so digital education, that is part of the things, but digital skilling is still we are little bit far ahead, because a lot of talent or whatever be the specific thing is required for that particular execution of that. So in case of the skilling, because I'm basically on that particular ground, so that need to be have the lot of hands-on kind of experience that still we are lacking in our converting that particular skill in edutech for converting that into the digital skilling.
Great. Samirji, you have been interacting as a consultant with a lot of organizations, and also because your platform offers a couple of interesting courses, including very focused digital technology courses. So what has been your experience in terms of how the education institutions are viewing it?
No, see, so I agree with what you said, that digital learning is not about learning about digital. Digital learning means using digital as an alternative medium to teach any subject under the sun. You could be teaching geography using digital. So a lot of people, I agree with you, get confused between digital learning as something which means technology learning. So that's one point I wanted to add. The other point is that amongst corporates or educational institutions, as you mentioned, we still feel a kind of apprehension to use digital as a medium. And this we worked with universities of all level, large private universities, small colleges. So the acceptance is still something that is being tried and tested. So we would not say that acceptance is large, and I'm talking of larger colleges also, whether it's institutions like IIT or IIMs. So I know that large institutions like one I've mentioned are still not, I would say their delivery medium is below 2-3-4% in using digital as a medium. So in spite of all the push that unfortunately the pandemic gave to this digital technology, the acceptance is very low. It is growing, but it is, I strongly feel that digital can never replace classroom trainings, whether in the corporate or in the education institutions. It can only act as a hybrid model to facilitate further learning, right? So I don't think it is ever going to replace that. And we have outcomes. So we are a large L&D company, and most of the corporates, except those 2.5 years of lockdown, as soon as the lockdown got over, they came back to physical learnings. Although the cost of physical learning is very high because of travel involved of the trainers also and the participants also. But most of the corporates were willing to pay that price because the outcome they felt in digital learning was not even 10% as high as the classroom training. So ILT, as it is called, instructor-led training, is still the norm in, I would say, almost all level of education institutions.
So that brings me to one very interesting, because we have seen the EdTech companies growing in not just the number of companies entering, but the valuation game that they got into, and really doing good work, I would say. Now, what you are saying is classroom learning would continue majorly. So, how do you see the technology evolving? What role can the digital edutech companies play? Where do they exactly fit in?
So, like I said, that edutech, supposing I am teaching a concept, let's say I am a chemistry student, but let me talk of any subject. Let's say I am teaching a class 10-11 student the concept of thermodynamics. Now if I explain it on a board and it gets wiped up after 10 minutes, I may or may not understand it. So that's the role of the EdTech company I see, where the kid can go back home and again watch a 3D modeling of how thermodynamics works, right? So I am saying the classroom is where he or she got introduced to the subject, and EdTech platform is something that she can look at later in terms of a revision, right? But if the doubts are there, like the previous panel mentioned about the lack of clarity, lack of concept, Dr. Dhankar only was talking about that. So I think that can never be covered by digital. So it's not that digital is not going to come, is not going to grow. It's very much there. It's a very, very useful part of life, especially where the teacher-student ratio is bad, or the absence of teacher is a big issue, which is a very big issue in our country. So I think EdTech is there to stay, but not replacing in the ILT.
You face an interesting challenge because India is entering the 5G era, and as a Telecom Skill Development Council, and what kind of skill challenges is the industry facing, and do you see and agree, or maybe perhaps that you still need the physical in-class training for the technical skills that the telecom industry or the communication industry requires?
Yeah, basically, if I say that the 5G, basically, or what the subject is right now is that related to digital is success of the digital more lives along with the telecom also. So some, as during that lunch hour, somebody was saying that that a lot of the ruler, they don't have the communication kind of the things, or they made a bandwidth and then the equipment. So everything is telecom related, basically. So telecom is a very wide role, particularly in this particular making the digital success. Okay, digital unlike as you might have seen entirely the 5G, it is basically not. It is basically centric based more. Like as in suppose in earlier there was in like all that 1G, 2G, 3G was basically for public network. When the 5G has come, more focus is started on the private kind of thing. So suppose this is one college there, they can set up the 5G networking to be high speed and everything kind of thing. So the 5G will definitely make that entirely, and to implement particularly at our part also. So that is not much big challenge. It's only about to be because India is very wide. So how much that area you are going to be covered at what span of the time. But technically it is doable and started already been rolled out because I am a part of that. And you might have also seen in Raleigh, you will start getting that some SMS related to upgrade your mobile for the 5G actually. For that particular part, when you are passing through that nearby that public radiation of that particular 5G, so they catch up your entire that information in your mobile and they send you. But that is for that particular area. So,
but do we have enough talents, the skill? Does the industry have enough skill? Because it's not just the telecom revolution, because the country, we have a 3 billion target, the Prime Minister has given, we have to become the manufacturing hub we are targeting. All of this requires a massive amount of talent and skills. And so maybe, I'll ask, move to Amit.
I have that particular, that particularly, yeah, I got your point. So basically, government is very serious on that particular note. A few days before also, Ministry of Skill Development personally called to entire our team. And they especially discuss about that how you are going to be fill up that particular kind of that skill gap particularly, and immediately on a spot actually they have given us that submit that proposal for the at least the minimum whatever required right now for that. So around 10,000 they have told that to be like start kind of the rollout of that particular training, and that is basically is required related to the upgradation of the current infrastructure into the 5G kind of thing. So that skill gap is going to be, we are going to fill up within kind of like maybe in another 6 and 7 months. But that is just to be immediate requirement. But as entire India rollout, it may take around 2 years minimum.
So thanks a lot. Amit, as we say, if we can execute and implement something in rural India, remotest part, then we can definitely do it across India, pan-India. And since you have been working in the rural area in education, how do you see the EdTech or the technologies actually truly enabling? I'm not talking about, just creating a window to reach out and facilitating classroom, replacing the physical. Now, there is another issue that perhaps we may, other speakers also may want to touch upon, is the pedagogy. So first, how do you see the technology enabling, driving skill development at the rural area? And then we will come on the pedagogy.
As far as when we talk about EdTech companies collaborating with the education institutes, we have to look at the long-term perspective. How are we going to blend it? Because like Sir said, it cannot be a replacement to our conventional education method. So what we at the rural India, or what we have done at our institute, is we collaborated during the pandemic time with Coursera, and we've had interaction with few of our alumni that what are the skill sets that are needed, and accordingly we asked the students to take those certifications, and that time it was free of cost, so students easily opted for it. And to our surprise, we found out that near about 80% of our students enrolled in engineering had gone for Coursera certification. And after that, when the licenses got over, free licenses, we tied up with Coursera because we didn't want that thing to slow down, because that time we didn't have any idea that when the COVID wave will go out, and how are we going to blend it in a hybrid mode. So we carried forward the same thing, and we made sure that our honor specialization, especially when we talk about emerging technologies, where we don't have skilled manpower to train the students on those lines. So we opted for those courses on Coursera, and it really helped the students in both ways, in placements as well as in their knowledge upgradation also. And before that, we also made sure that when we were discussing with Coursera, we made sure that the first thing that they should do is train our faculty on those domains. So Coursera also came up and trained our faculties on those domains. So it helped both the ways, faculty as well as the students.
Thank you, Amit. You mentioned you specified a very important term actually, blending. Now, are we doing it right, or are we putting the cart before the horse, which is technology before education? Your take on it.
No, I don't think we are putting the horse before the cart by taking up technology before education. No, it's like I said, even if you look at the largest and the best universities of the world, the classroom training is still a priority there. And even if you look at like an Harvard or a MIT or a Stanford, the classroom training, although they're, like you mentioned, pedagogy is same, it is different than what we are doing here. But I mean, we need not copy them in all the parameters that we have. I mean, our education system is considered one of the best in the world. And the issue that we are discussing today in terms of the skill gap, yes, that skill gap is there because maybe it is too focused on exams, or it is too focused on results, or getting that 99% marks. So that needs to be changed, and it has to be more holistic education. But having said that, I don't think that too much of any institution is putting too much of pressure on students to go towards digital education, except as a blended, like you use the word blended learning. Blended learning is the word to go forward on this.
So, are the education institutions, and the EdTech institutions interacting well to meet the country's need in terms of skill, and are they blending well, and are the EdTech companies ready to meet that challenge?
First of all, when we talk about the online platform, we have similarly MOOCs, Swayam platform by the government of India, NPTEL, where they have involved all the education institutes. We have found out they were more open. They requested the faculties who are good in particular domain that you come up and post your video or put your notes and all. So that was there in that domain. But when we come to the private sector, I feel it has happened more with the tier 1 institutes. They have not come down to the rural part of the India or to all the parts of the domain. So, that is where we found out the missing gap. The missing gap was filled up by the government. That's what I could say.
Also, Shubhendu, you have to also see the point that content is a very subjective term, right? I write a content on a subject, you may not like it, right? I have been teaching a subject for last, let's say, 30 years in one school or college in a, let's say, tier 2 city in a particular manner, right? All teachers have a very fixed way to teach a subject or teach a topic, and they give similar examples because they've been taught that way during their childhood. Now, if an EdTech platform comes and tries to change the way it is being taught, right, the acceptability may not come. So one of the, and let's not go very far away. In Delhi University, we have a department called ILLL, which has been trying to, make the content of all 3 years of BA, BSc, BCom digital. They have been quite successful. But if you see their journey over the last 10-15 years, it's been full of roadblocks and bottlenecks. So like I said, the acceptability of content from one platform to another platform to the classroom learning is also a very, very big challenge.
Praveen.
Yeah, I agree on you, sir. Basically, as in part of blended learning, that it all depend on what kind of the training and what kind of the content you are going to be provide that particularly. One side it may be a very good kind of the things also. Another side, if that person is not accepting that particular part, they are not. And we discuss a lot about that blended learning. Blended is good, but basically when it's suffice the problem of that. If there is a problem related to physical learning and it is sorting about some kind of blended learning, then it's okay. And up to what percentage, that is also depend. It may be that if it has been sufficient for the 10% of blending, whether it is sufficient for the 20% of blending, that also be part of that.
Also, Shubhendu, I mean, Telecom Sector Skill Council, I have also worked with them some 10 years back. The advantage with this sector skill council is that their main stakeholders are 2, 3, 4 companies only. I mean, those are the kind of companies which are running the telecom network. So in their case, most of the syllabus that was imparted to the students was designed in association with those companies, since there were 2, 3 companies only. And all those companies had separate division whose job was to design this specific course as per need of the company, right? So it was comparatively a simpler thing to do compared to, let's say, an IT industry or any other industry where their stakeholders are in thousands and millions of companies. In spite of that, the employment rate, I'm sure you can give a better listing of students who have passed out from TSE in terms of employment rate amongst the same telecom companies, the ones who created the course. I don't know what are the figures there, or
yeah, basically in case of because it's like different kind of the label of the kind of operator. Basically they are the owner of that particular telecom for that. They sublet that entire things to the technology provider. So like as in technology, no, not the vendor, technology provider. Suppose they are the Nokia, Ericsson, and these are the, so the entire work goes to them. They also then further sublet to the entire, so XYZ, the bottom of that. So the mostly whatever the training it go, those are the main executors. And the most of that part of that our candidates went and placed there only. That is the only part.
Understood. So, as I mentioned, I also wanted to understand from you guys about the pedagogy. Now, there has been a sudden change. It's as somebody mentioned, it's a 10x change in the education sector, with technology adoption being accelerated at that pace. Now, we also have the new education policy that has come up. So, my question is the new education policy built up or designed to meet the digital era? And do we have the pedagogy, or do we need a change in pedagogy to adopt or use technology in a better way?
Yeah, basically related to NEP 2020, because in mostly the part, and today we were discussing that in our during the lunch hours also, that education era basically has not been adopted, even they have not made the course and curriculum kind. But as far as that all SSCs are concerned, or that vocational education where the technical part is there, we have almost entirely make that entire course and curriculum as per the NEP kind of things. So adoption is very well in that particularly, and we think that it is a part of the good part. And as far as that education and this digital part, basically when the NEP has been prepared, at that time it was not be a thought of that to make that how that digital part of the contribution would be there. Suppose if I give one example, like is in NEP, everything they have multiplied because we have prepared the course and standard also. So everything is multiplied up to 30. Okay, one credit point is 30 hours. Whether it's a generic notes or whatever, or in easily language we can say the one chapter. Okay, one chapter is sufficient for the 30 hours kind of things. So earlier it was been a kind of the challenge to be convert those chapters in the multiple of the 30 also there. So that we faced, and also we like change that part of that from the somewhere to here to the next chapter and kind of thing and make able to do it. So that particular part of the problem we are able to resolve. But how those hours going to be converted into digital when you are going to implement the NEP and then going to it? That is also be kind of the challenge, because you know digitally you can sum up the entire things within minutes and hours also. Suppose that if there is a 30-hour job, it is very big challenge to convert the 30 hours of the content into the 30 hours of the digital, and it would be a huge cost to the even the education that all these companies who are making that digital. So this is a kind of change, how to like suppose the 30 hours of the theory of that practical or physical training is to be converted into digital. So that part has not been yet covered. NEP, but government is very proactive. If any digital media and that kind of things are going to be recovered, they will come up with some certain solutions.
Samir.
Yeah, so of course NEP does cover this, but like we were discussing during lunch, that the biggest stakeholder here is the academic world themselves. And I think the biggest change has to come amongst academicians to be able to accept this, that digital is here to stay and it is only there to help you. It's not an alternative. It's not a challenge to you. I don't think in anybody's lifetime digital is ever going to replace. So it's not a challenger to you. It's there only to help you. But if we take this discussion, Shubhendu, out of this to, let's say, the corporate world, where the resources and financial constraints are not there, similar resistance to change we find there also. It's not that the corporate world is very much welcoming digital as a technology to learn and to, I mean, they might do their Udemy and Coursera courses, but that's just for writing in their CV that I have done this particular Coursera course. But in terms of learning, the outcome there is also not been very positive, and the resistance to change, to learn something, is there in the corporate world also, amongst young professionals in the corporate world also. Although, like I said, finance is not an issue there, or any kind of access to any technology in the world is not an issue there. So, like I said, that this any kind of change is something that comes slowly, unfortunately, except the few percentage of population who are willing to spend that extra time and effort to learn. It is a challenge.
Amit.
Yeah, as Samir sir said, first thing we need to understand is the way the NEP is going to be implemented. You know, most of the states have started implementing, few states are yet to take decision on it. And we have a target that it has to be implemented by 2030. So we have to find the initiators who have started implementing it, keep them as a role model and showcase them to the rest of the institutes that this is how it has been implemented. And then the penetration ratio will increase, as well as we need to make sure that these institutes or universities who have been implementing it on a very aggressive level, they should be showcased at the national level. Then the penetration will be adapted very well, as well as we need to look into the other side also. Like sir said, digital is going to be there. So we have to make sure how well we are taking it. UGC, AICTE both are saying that we can have up to 40% of the curriculum on the MOOCs platform. So that is going to be there. They have left the liberty up to the institutes that how you want to blend it. So we have to use it very carefully. And when we talk about digital, we have to be very careful in terms of evaluation. Like sir said, they have a certification, but do they have the specific knowledge? That is very important. And that analysis can be done only in the education scenario, in the private university, or in the university, or in an institution. Then only we will be able to give justice to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. So as we see, we all of us agree, one, that it's blended is the way. The percentage may vary depending upon what kind of skills. Second, that technology is there and it will be an enabler, and education institutions need to decide. And as you mentioned, evaluation is one of the things. Last question for all of you. One thing that you want the EdTech companies to do, which they are not doing, and one thing that the education institutions must do, that they are not doing.
One thing, as far as that vocational kind of thing, that where the technology is more required, so they have to be like more using, though AR VR is in India, but as it's in the lunch, that is not been the kind of thing which it has to be. It has to replace the digital, like the lab is there for the practical, it has to be converted to the digital lab, and that should convert the 100% of the requirement, not as in making the digital and making that kind of the globe and then okay, this has become, it has to be like replicate kind of things. That is still being pending on, because as far as you are going into vocational, so you have to be take care of that. You can make that content of that, but the digital part of the practical and OGT, that cannot be a part of the which is going to be replaced. But at least practical, if they can go for the digital kind of the lab, so it will be.
Great, thanks a lot. Digital lab, as you mentioned. Samir ji.
So, I feel in any field, why education? Any change is a very slow process and it has to start from the very top. So, answering your question about what does an educational institute need to do? Educational institute need to, like Amit mentioned, start a few projects where digital is up to the limit as NEP has subscribed, which is 40%. In other projects where maybe it is 5%, but as an educational institution, I will start a project where I will use, let's say, 30 to 40% digital as a medium of instruction, and the rest will be, of course, physical, and then make it successful from the point of view of all the key stakeholders, including the faculty. Like I mentioned, faculty sometimes themselves are not approving the content being delivered by digital. On the other point of view, the digital companies, instead of focusing too much on digital, I have seen too many digital platforms making it very jazzy, very interactive and very colorful, and the movement is very fast and UI UX is great, but content wise they are weak. So if I were, which I do, I run edutech company, I would rather focus on outcomes. That what is it that I am trying to do? I am not trying to impress my listener with technology. I am trying to help him learn a topic which he is not aware of, he is mildly aware of. I want to go deeper into it, and he is going to subscribe to me to learn better. And a good technology is not going to be impressed by technology. He is going to be impressed with the content there, right?
Thank you, Samirji. And as you mentioned, the content for the EdTech companies and for the institutions, it's starting with the 40% level, and
Yeah, I mean,
taking it.
I mean, if you have 10 things to work on, start with one.
Yeah.
Succeed in one. Show to the whole world that we have succeeded in one. Other 9, keep it pending.
Get it proof of concept.
Yes, proof of concept. Yes.
Amit.
Yeah, I'm running short of time, so I'll just cut it short. For education institutes, I think if we decide that if anything has been framed by the government, let's not waste time. Follow what has been given, because it's not going to change. So if we follow that, we'll be much ahead of time to adapt it. And in terms of EdTech, I'll always have a question, and I've been putting up to these companies also. Fine, you all are putting it on a digital platform, everything. I always request them, can we have a physical session also sometimes, because that matters a lot. So if a professor who is best in teaching aerodynamics, and if he comes and takes a session physically, it gives a much better experience. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Yes, it says the times are up, but maybe we know. Yes, I am coming to that, sir. We'll figure out whether we were able to wake up the conference. So one question maybe.
My question is to Mr. Praveen and other. I retired from the Ministry of Affairs and the Government of India long back. We have 21 technical development center set up about 30 years back. and there we trained for 4-year tool and die maker, CAD, CAM, etc. Where the employment is 100%, 100%. The employer will be waiting outside. कि आजा भाई ले रही है पहले एडवांस चेक. Whereas you are one of the general manager of Telecommunication Skill Council. There are 21 skill council and 11 crores. I mean, the job seeker and other, they have registered with all the skill council. Whereas your employment is only 20 to 30%. You are wasting so much resources of the country. Why can't you follow that example which is already exists for the last 30 years?
So, yeah,
ये मेरा
perhaps you may answer it briefly, but
देखो,
not a
employment
very
जो है,
related question. But yeah,
employment-
If I understand from your particularly,
employment ये सवेरे से भी डिस्कशन हो रहा है, it's a very serious issue. तो
So-
इसमें क्यों ना हम इसको ऐसा करें कि जिसमें outcome, he has said outcome, so you should be more concerned about outcome. कि जितने
Sir,
train किए, उनकी नौकरी लगे।
basically,
कम से कम
I
अपनी
understand your point. Basically, your point is related to employment related training, sir. So basically, employment is, it's like kind of the thing which is aspirational also. Whether suppose I have given a kind of the training, but the candidate is not that kind of that inspirational for going to do that kind of the job. So that would be also be a kind of the thing which going to be unresult kind of things. Recently, we have started in basically in our mighty scheme, whatever we have started. We have started the entire because everybody is kind of that more placement kind of so we are doing that kind of place and train. We are being discussing that with the industry, give the part of the assured placement kind of thing, and then train as per your requirement kind of thing. So that is also being part of that, where the placement is 100% kind of things. So that is also part of that. But it is basically an entire scheme because what we are going to be trained kind of things. Our placement ratio is around 60% kind of thing, that particularly. But that all depend. It's not been that as per the government schemes kind of thing. So suppose we have given a training, our training partner has given training, and then the candidate, because the selection of the mobilization of the part, the candidate, they have taken it, candidate has got that training, but he is not willing to take a job, that particular kind of thing, and you might go to for their own business kind of thing. So those are the things are being there. But that better replacement is that we are just convincing them we are going to place you if it's been ready for that placement, and then we are giving the training for that particular job.
thank you, Praveen ji, for answering it, and I won't take more of time. And our guest of honor Kalsi ji is here, and so let's move on to the next session and his presentation.
Thank you,
Thanks a
panelists.
lot.
Thank you,
All-
Shubhendu. But I